Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me and for that awesome introduction. I'm so excited to be here today, and I want to make this as exciting. I know it's such a weird week in general, but I want to make this as exciting and interactive as possible. So if you have questions throughout or specific things that you're wondering about your business, please feel free to ask them in the chat box or on Zoom, and I'll answer throughout. So I will give you some background on myself and then definitely would love to hear about some of you guys too. My name is Alexa Curtis, and back in 2011, I launched a fashion blog called A Life in the Fashion Lane, way before the days of social media. And I actually launched the blog as a platform for me to really overcome a lot of what I was dealing with social media and bullying. So back in 2011, blogging was not really a thing. Social media and being an influencer was not something that people really thought they could do, myself included. So upon launching the site when I was 12, I just wanted to have an outlet for myself as a young adult to really overcome a lot of the things that I was dealing with, having a traumatic childhood and being bullied. So I launched the site, and over the course of the past 10 plus years, I've built it into this full time lifestyle platform for young adults on social media and mental health. I speak at a lot of different colleges, and I also had a show that I pitched and secured on Radio Disney called Fearless Every Day. So I'm originally from a really small town in Eastern Connecticut called Mansfield. And I moved to LA when I got that show. And that show was pretty much my first big career yes. And then I also started a program that is called the Be Fearless Summit. So I team up with colleges to help them encourage young people to become entrepreneurs. And so there's a lot of different virtual summits. We're about to expand into a mentorship program. So I'm 23 now, but quite often I speak to many different people from all walks of life who are perhaps too scared or nervous to start companies, or really just don't know how to deal with the current state of events. And I think that so many people right now can probably relate to the fear of not knowing what the future holds or whether they have to pivot. But the really main key part of anything, whether you're looking to start a company or not, is figuring out how to truly brand yourself. So what sets you apart? Now, there's a book I recently just purchased called, I think it's called Storybook or Storybank. I can figure out the name of it. And I've been reading through this book as I've gotten deeper into this particular summit program to really try and understand about branding and how important it is that people really figure out who they are. And now that is completely across the board. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to know your brand or your target audience. That's the same if you perhaps want to work for a new company or update your resume. It's kind of like figuring out the key elements to any type of elevator pitch. And so I always advise people to figure out if they were in an elevator with one person who was their biggest motivation or inspiration, and you had 30 seconds, what would you say? And so I think along the terms of branding, that's the key part to figuring out what would you say to that person who you were in an elevator with. And then along with that, who are you as a brand and what can you bring to the table? So that's a great book. And again, if you want me to tell you what the name of it is exactly, I can figure it out some point through this chat, but highly encourage you to do that. And truly just to try something new. Obviously, when I landed that show on Radio Disney, I was called Fearless Every Day. So that whole show was built around me going across the country and interviewing truly inspirational young people. And through that, I was able to meet so many people who've created these amazing companies just figuring out their need in the market. But the same way that I don't know how many of you are trying to be entrepreneurs or pursue an idea, but that same need in the market that an entrepreneur might be thinking of, how do I fill this space, is kind of the same thing that you could also be thinking of is, okay, if I want to join this company or I want to get this job, perhaps, where can they do that, or what can you bring to this company that can really help you pursue your personal goals and then also make this company excel in other areas. So that's how, if you start thinking of yourself as a brand, you really can evaluate all areas of your life and your friendships and your relationships. And that also then goes into business. Obviously, if you're thinking of yourself as a company in itself, you don't need to be an influencer or even entrepreneur to do that. Then you're always just going to be prepared for any particular opportunity that that comes to you. So is there any initial questions off the bat right there? Anything anyone can think of? I know it's kind of an open-ended discussion. I only see myself, not you guys. But yeah, I would love to know if there's any one part of what I just said that you would want me to expand on or give advice on. I know everyone's always really curious about how to kind of get a show like I did with Radio Disney, or how to start a company without any money, or any of those of interest to anyone. I'll wait a second in case anyone has a question. And this is on Facebook too, so I'm looking at it there, which is really cool. If no one has any questions, then I'll keep going on to the branding part, which I think is definitely really important. Now when okay, there is a question. Let me see. I will click back into that. How did you get a show picked up? Yeah, this is always the most, everyone's so intrigued by this. Okay, so I had started a podcast back in about 2018 called This Is Life Unfiltered. So at that time, how I was able to actually make a living was doing these TV segments. So I moved out at 17, no money, literally went to New York and gave myself pretty much 30 days to pay the rent. I didn't even really tell my parents. It was kind of odd. And in that 30-day period, I ended up going to a Sally beauty supply store, taking pictures of tons of different brands, and then emailing them and getting money. So I made $1,500 that month off an Instagram takeover, and I actually only had 700 followers, which back in the day was like a lot to me, but now it's not too many. So that's how I was truly making a living off of this, was doing these branded TV segments that gave me the flexibility to pursue my blog and that podcast, which really didn't make me any money. So I had that show idea for the podcast, did that for about 2 years. And then I randomly had this idea and found a producer list online, which I'm happy to send to any of you guys after this call. That was every agent, manager, publicist, book executive, literally in America. I emailed all of them on a BCC in December of 2018 and heard back from someone at Disney. And basically the email was just an introduction to myself saying, hi, you probably don't know who I am. I'm a young adult blogger. I started a blog called A Life in the Fashion Lane, and now it's called Life Unfiltered with Alexa. And I heard back from someone at Disney, and over the course of the year, pretty much from December to June the following year, which was 2019, actually drafted this whole show concept. I think I have the date screwed up. It was on the air from 2018 to 2019. So it ended like last August. And I had the show for about a year, and it was their first show filmed in Burbank, California, on social media and mental health and bullying. Disney had never gone into that area and that space because it's such a uplifting company. They don't focus on too many things that can be a little bit edgier. And so I was really honored to be able to take on that role to introduce the company and their platform to those kind of topics. It was a really unique experience. It ended up actually being kind of traumatic and monumental in my career. I ended up getting the show in March. And then in April, they had found videos I had posted on YouTube about like sex education. And I got a phone call from my manager who was like, it was incredibly traumatic. And long story short, they said no, they backed out of the show, wouldn't sign the contract. And then randomly about 6 months later, which goes to show how being an entrepreneur, you just have to be prepared for anything. We got a phone call and they were like, oh, she deleted the videos. We didn't even notice. Like, we'll sign the contract now. And that was, no one really knows that, but it was a quite traumatic, but also super interesting experience. How do I get sponsorships? So when I initially started, like I mentioned, I was doing a ton of different TV segments. So that meant that I would go to, say, Fox. And like I said, I didn't come from any money or any connection. So every email I would find online, there's different plugins called, there's one called LinkedIn Lead Leaper. There's one called snov.io. And again, if I'm going over these too fast, I'm happy to talk to you guys after and send you some of the names of these. And you can add them into your computer. The one that's Snovio, I pay $50 a month for, but I'm like an aggressive harasser via things that like I want done. So I need a lot of emails a month. And then the LinkedIn Lead Leaper is free. And so I would find these producers or even brands, and I would email them and pitch them, and then they would pay me to go on. Now I don't do too many TV segments anymore, especially not with COVID, and financially, luckily, I've been doing this long enough, I don't have to. But when I am looking for sponsorships, like especially this particular college summit program that I started called the Be Fearless Summit, what's really unique about that is now we've figured out how to bring it to be virtual. But the goal of that is to open up and actually happen again in colleges. So I was able to get Morphe Cosmetics, which is a huge cosmetics brand, Hanes Hosiery, like the tights. They do masks now too. Gum companies, Headspace, and I would find their marketing emails online. So I would Google, for example, Hanes or Target public relations or press release, and I would find a press contact. Now, the reason a lot of people, in my opinion, are not always successful with getting sponsorships or really elevating themselves in front of the public eye is they're always getting in touch with the wrong people. And so especially when I talk to college students who are like, I applied for 300 jobs and no one got back to me. Well, think about it differently. What if you were to go to someone else? What if you were to go to someone else at the company, the marketing manager, the public relations manager, and introduce yourself to them that way? The same for me. So I would never go to like the sales team at Hanes. I would always go to the marketing company and get their email and then pitch them. And so then it's really great to have a media kit or a one sheet similar. I never had a traditional 9-to-5 job. So I've never really had a resume per se, but this particular media kit that I created that shows all of my past work, it eradicates all of the, I call it like the bullshit in business, the 2 B's, because it's an email that you send and you're like, here's what I'm looking for. I want you to sponsor the summit, or I want you to sponsor a blog post, and here's how much it costs. What do I charge for sponsorships? So that's pretty interesting. And people always ask me, how do I make money and how does it come in? So there's a few different ways. I have a lot of different avenues of how I can make money. So if we start with obviously like my blog and my social media, and that's how I started. So whether I'm doing a sponsored blog post or an Instagram post, an Instagram takeover, anything like that can vary. I would say about 50% of the time it's me reaching out to brands or someone on my team that I like, or me getting an email from someone. But I usually like to have the say more. So I say I usually have better, more successful sponsorships with companies that I've approached versus that have come to me, because those are so often one-off. But it truly can depend. It usually starts around like $650 for a blog post, and then it can go up for different things. So if it's like a blog post and an Instagram post, sometimes it'll be $1,500. Sometimes the company will only have $1,300, and that's okay with me if I like this stuff. I no longer, I used to be honest, post about things. Obviously, like, you know, if I needed the money, I would. Now it's really only companies that I like. So I don't ever post about marijuana or CBD, even though I live in LA, because I know my demographic is not old enough for that. I don't talk a lot about sex. I kind of learned my lesson from Disney, but I do it in a really organic way if I am talking about it. And then so for TV segments, which is how I used to make a lot of money when I was starting, is I would do the same thing, but I would go to them and, you know, it would range. Sometimes I'd get paid $5,000 for a branded TV segment from one brand. Sometimes I would get $500 from 5 different brands. And either way, it was incredibly overwhelming and stressful. The best thing you could do if you want to do what I do for a living is have a contract. You need to have a contract, even if no money is involved. I'm telling you, like, please have a contract. I will send you a box after this, like, of goodies from Summit sponsors if you have contracts for things. And then for podcast ads, sometimes it'll range from like $500 to $1,500 if it's like an introduction ad. So at the beginning of the podcast episode, ending the podcast episode, When I was at Disney, I was on salary with them. I was getting paid hourly. And then for the summit sponsors, it depends too. Some will pay $3,000, but it's a huge 6-month kind of campaign throughout the summit. Some will pay $500, and it's like one Instagram post. What tips would you give someone who is looking into getting involved with being an Instagram influencer? So my biggest tip, I have 2 tips. My number 1 tip is to have no expectations. This is a unique time in the world because we are all so involved with our cell phones. And I think that's why a lot of people's mental health has decreased incredibly more than it ever has, especially during this pandemic, is because we're all attached to our phones. So how I started, I had no expectation for it, right? Anyone who's starting a company, even if in the back of your mind, you're like, I want this to become my full-time job, you're just trying to fill a void in the market. So I was trying to create a role model like I didn't feel like I had growing up. The founder of GoPro is trying to create drones, to inspire people that way. So the number 1 thing is like, if you can go into it as a hobby and not a career path, I think you'll be a lot more successful because you'll be more willing to like experiment and have fun and get out of your comfort zone. I see so many aspiring influencers is the right word, obsessed with like the pictures and the content, and they only have 100 followers. You just gotta relax. Like, people feel authenticity. Why I've been successful is because I am in a world of not authentic people. And so do that. And then the second thing I would think about is definitely, who are you trying to appeal to, right? Like, you want to make this into a career, but what is your audience? How do you create a small cult following for yourself and then expand it? Like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years now, since I was 12. There's people who get famous overnight, and there's people who it takes 25 years. But if you can build that cult following, then you're on the right path. But don't expect it to happen overnight. And then the last thing I'd say is like financially, which I totally get. Everyone thinks that they can make money off of it. If you have 500, 600 followers and you bring something to the table, then go to a smaller brand. Ask them, will they pay you $50? You get 5 brands to pay you $50. I did not go to college, so I'm bad at math. I don't know. I'm so bad at math. Oh gosh, what happened to me? Whatever the answer to that is, this is what I'm not good at math. That's a decent amount of money if you're first starting out. Okay, there is another question. My friends and I started a podcast about racing in March, and we've struggled to increase followers. Our podcast goes out on Spotify and a few other places, and we promote it via Twitter, but it's been a lot harder to get folks listening than we thought it would be, and we're extremely low budget. I'm assuming the question is, you want to increase your followers or make money, but I think it's about the followers. I can also chime in on the money part too. I don't know how many episodes you've had. My first question would be like, if I was talking to you individually, are you putting these episodes out weekly? Are you consistent? Are you having an interview show? I don't think Twitter is the best way to go about it. I think with podcasts, they really are organic growth. So you'd have more success on Instagram, perhaps commenting on other people's podcasts, asking if they want to do an Instagram live with you or an interview. The great part about a podcast, as you mentioned, is it takes a lot of time, and time is money. But in the overall scheme of budget, you don't really need a lot of money. You just need a microphone and your time. So I would try and look into these different avenues of, maybe if Twitter's not working, don't waste your time there. Go to Instagram, get bigger guests on your show. Make sure that you are really consistent and your branding makes sense. Go out to someone randomly at a bar and say, look at this podcast. What do you think? That's the thing about branding, right? Is if you were to ask someone, or someone goes on my website, immediately, what are you getting out of this podcast? And perhaps it could be that could be the issue, right? Is maybe your branding isn't super consistent. Okay, you said you just did 34. So that's really, I don't think, I did about close to 200 episodes of my podcast, and every week I ended up luckily interviewing a bigger founder. But I think that it could be really important to really maybe figure out the branding and, cross promoting. Like, if you're able to do interviews, and if you comment, I can see if you are doing interviews, but then it's like getting bigger guests. And if you aren't having success and you aren't doing interviews, then maybe it's worth, can you get one person on just to boost the numbers once a month? who is successful and has a good following, and that might actually really help you. And everyone always asks me like how to make money off of podcasts. So here's the thing about podcasts. I really have figured out the sweet spot. So I obviously with podcasts, if anyone on here is listening knows about podcasts. So podcasts, you make no money unless you have Joe Rogan listens, which is like 1 million listens an episode. So the best thing you can do with a podcast is go online, which I often will do with my blog too. If I need to make money or I want to work with a company, go online to companies like Thrive Market, Birchbox, and all of them, Anthropology even, have brand lists. So if you go to birchbox.com now or after this call, you'll see at the top that there's a little tab that you can click on that has a list of all of the brands. And that's the way that you get sponsorships for podcasts. You're not going to make $1 million off of a podcast ad unless you have 1 million listeners. I didn't have 1 million listeners, but if anyone on here did, that's amazing. So what you can do, because people love throwing money at podcast ads, it's experiential, whatever the word is, like the experiment marketing, and a lot of companies do have budget, is go to some of those companies, get the PR email and say you have a successful podcast. No one needs to know that you only have 100 listeners a month, and say you would love to try an ad with them for $50, $60, $100. And I guarantee you someone will say yes, because people know with podcasts, you might have 30 listeners and those 30 people will buy every single thing that you mention. Whereas someone like Kim Kardashian could post something and everyone knows that she's just like an ad, a walking ad anyway, so no one actually trusts her. So I would definitely say try and do that if you want to make money off of podcasting. I found it to be really successful. I've encouraged other people to do it, and that can kind of pay you for the time that you're using on building the podcast. There's a question here. Do I have any suggestions for starting a clothing brand? I had a call earlier with 2 young adults who are starting a sustainable clothing brand, and I've worked in fashion and have done a lot in that area. What exactly is the type of clothing, if I can ask? My first suggestion is do it. I don't know if you have started it or not, but if you're wondering whether or not to do it and it's something you've been thinking about for 6+ months, then absolutely do it. After that, there's a lot of factors and money about clothing. So I would say if you need money to start it up, use Kickstarter, use I Fund Woman, which is a women's funding platform, and go on it and try and get as much funding as you can, raise $5,000 or $10,000, whatever, from your friends and family. It's really great to put that kind of money into it versus getting investments. And then I am a big proponent of case studies. Like I truly believe that case studies are what makes or break a company. And I wished I had done them earlier in my career. So Nicole, you're trying to start sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts with the designs. Okay, so what specifically makes your design so unique? And I don't know about your company, so I can't say whether perhaps it is super unique or not. But you know, if you can create a case study and go out to find 100 women, if it's women's clothing or men or unisex both, and get really detailed questions. Say you'll give them $5 to Amazon for answering 20 questions about what they're looking for. Like what styles would they wear? What colors do they like? You know, do they like this design or not like this design? I think that's a great thing to do. And then I also am a firm believer in like that crowdsourcing to start off, because the worst thing sometimes entrepreneurs do is they take other people's money so fast, like you see on Shark Tank, and then they give away a part of the company. But it's hard. And then from there, I mean, getting it out in the public eye, like, you know, maybe make a fake assistant, like a fake email, and email companies on behalf of yourself and say you work for example, say the name of your company was Forever 21. I work on behalf of Nicole at Forever 21. She's, you know, we'd love to submit this item as part of a holiday gift guide. I mean, really, it takes one strong press hit or one key player in a clothing piece that you're making for the company to really take off. So there's all of those kind of outside of the box theories you can think about. You're welcome. These are really cool questions. It seems like a lot of you guys then are starting companies, which is awesome. I would say too, I back on the topic of sponsorships, because that was one of the earlier questions. That particular method that I've taken for a lot of those podcast ads, you can do in the same way for Instagram. You can do it in the same way for if you have a blog or you've started even a program like I started with the summit. Now there are so many brands out there that are smaller brands. I have found, even where I am at in my career, like never will I really ever work with Target. One time they gave me clothing. A lot of these bigger brands like Target and Forever 21 don't do this kind of marketing. So you'd be better going to companies that are smaller, even like Venus CBD, or this is some stuff on my desk I've been sent, Vital Proteins, The Naked Bee. Avoid companies like Apple. You're wasting your time when you could make money from smaller companies. Are there courses or workshops to learn how to do podcasts or build your Instagram following? There are. I also have a master class where I really sit down with entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and I do it for like $25. It's on Eventbrite, and kind of consult for an hour with them. So there's that. You know, the courses and workshops, I think you kind of get out of them what you want. So I don't necessarily know they're worth it. I've seen courses out there on building your Instagram following. There really is no like secret to building it at the end of the day. Like what you can do is you can comment on other people's pictures. Go on, say you're starting a fashion company, go on Instagram, type in the hashtag fashion, and then comment on all of those people. You can copy and paste the same comment. I've noticed that definitely can get your following up. Sometimes those targeted ads can be really successful. And the reason I say that is because if you really do know your market, if you have a podcast or a clothing company and you know exactly who your audience is, then using Facebook or Instagram ads can really get it out there. But Instagram really it kind of gives you back what you want. If you are just starting out and you want to spend an hour a day commenting on other people's posts, then you're going to get more followers. They're going to get more followers too if you follow them. But if you just ignore it, like it's not going to just give you 1 million followers. And on top of that, Linda, I don't know exactly what it is you're trying to do, but TikTok has been really successful with people who have ideas. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, maybe looking into TikTok. How do I handle negative people or negative comments? I get asked this question all the time. I truly don't often get negative comments. And the reason I say that is because I don't necessarily, in my opinion, bring anything too controversial to the table. That being said, when I think of negativity, I think of the rejection. So luckily I have a pretty positive, like uplifting social media platform, but behind the scenes, I pitch hundreds of companies a day. I always have ideas for shows, and that rejection can be really difficult. I remember when I first got my show on Radio Disney, there actually was a moment 3 years before where I had flown out to LA. And oddly, I posted a video of it too. I had met with a producer, a huge producer, STX, which is one of the biggest like movie production companies. And he pretty much was like, "You suck. Don't do this for a career, and like get the hell out of my office." And I posted this video crying. 3 years later, I was filming the show on Disney directly across the street. So the best thing you can do if you're getting any type of negativity, if someone doesn't believe in your idea, is find people who do. For every one person, which is terrible, that tells you that you suck or your idea is not good enough, find 5 friends you can call, or 5 mentors or business people that will bring you back up, because people always have something to say. Now, I have had videos go viral on TikTok where people have been incredibly mean. I've had a few that I've had to delete that have gone like completely irrational. The thing about platforms like TikTok is people on TikTok are bored. People on Instagram are usually bored. So if you can look at it like that way, and I mean, I go on Instagram, obviously, like sometimes I'm bored, but I really don't look at Instagram anymore as a lifeline. I really think of it as a tool and a business tool. But yeah, I mean, I did have one video go viral on TikTok, and it kind of traumatized me. People were so mean, and I deleted it. People were like, "Don't delete it." like being called, 100,000 people I think commented and said the meanest things. I don't find that necessary. Like, what am I getting out of that? If someone says something to you, block them. When using hashtags on Instagram, do you suggest more or less to be used? So I actually have note pages on my iPhone, and I have a bunch of different hashtags. My friend started this hashtag expert app. So it's called hashtag expert, and you can go on and look up whatever you want. I think I paid $20 for the year for it. And you can go on, type in if you have a post you want to do on fashion. It'll give you all the top hashtags about fashion. It's great because then you can copy and paste it and then put them on there, and it will give you the max amount. I don't really think it matters. Oh my God, sorry. That was my doorman. I don't really think it matters, but there's a max. So you could do 30, you could do 15. I think 30 is the max. But the trick to it actually is so there'll be 30 hashtags. So if you copy and paste from hashtag expert, you'll notice that it will be copy and pasted right into the caption, and you want to copy and paste the tags into your notepad and then put 5 bullet points. You want to put 5 bullet points before the tag so that it's in a comment. It looks like people aren't able to see the tags, if that makes sense. I'm gonna buzz this door really quick too. Okay, I'm back. So so hashtags are really great. What I've also noticed, TikTok, so Instagram is so filled with hashtags. TikTok hashtags can really make your video literally go viral, and there's like 5 that can make them go viral. It's a lot easier, but that app, hashtag expert, is really great. When you start Instagram, do you try to follow a lot of people so they follow you back? Also, is there anyone that I follow that I love on Instagram, and do I like Instagram lives? Great question, Shelly. So my first answer is, when I started Instagram, do I try and follow a lot of people? So I didn't do that. I have had people do that on my summit page. I guess because I consider myself like a public figure, that's not something that I do. I wouldn't follow people back who aren't my friends. But I have noticed that the copy and pasting of the comments sometimes can be really successful on both my page and the summit page. But I would say that if you want to grow your following rapidly, the easiest thing to do is follow people instantly back. It's the same way on Twitter. And so if someone follows you, like, follow them back, and you really can garner huge followings from that. And if you go on Twitter, you'll see there's a lot of public figures that are following like 200,000 people, and they have 1 million followers. And so they've actually done that method too. Is there anyone you follow that you love their Instagram? There is. I'm obsessed with Sarah Blakely. So she's the founder of Spanx. I deal with a lot of my own mental health issues like anxiety and depression. So I've noticed that me following like other people who I don't know or who are just like super beautiful models doesn't help my mental health. I will also say that I completely delete and deinstall Instagram on Sundays. I take it off my phone, and that's like my full 1 day off. Great tip. Choose a day and just don't go on any of it. Is there anyone else I follow? So I love Sarah Blakely. I love Sarah Gaines. She's a really awesome fitness person that I know. Danielle Robay is a really good one of my friends. Super amazing, inspirational on-air TV personality. Naz Perez is another one. She's really great. I really enjoy following Jesse Eitzler, who is Sarah Blakely's husband. Love them. Wim Hof, who is a deep breathing expert. And then the last person I mentioned is Lauren Everett. She's the founder of the Skinny Confidential. I love all of their Instagrams. And then, do I like Instagram Lives? I love Instagram Lives. When COVID first started, I was doing Instagram Lives pretty much every day. And I pretty much now am doing like one every other week. So I think I have one scheduled for tomorrow at 12, and they're great. I think they're great for, especially if you're just starting out an Instagram page and you want to get a lot of followers, reach out to someone who has a lot of followers and see if you can interview them. I know back when COVID started, I reached out to, if anyone knows the show Gossip Girl, I reached out to Kelly Rutherford, who's Lily on Gossip Girl, I'm obsessed with, and did an Instagram live, and my Instagram like blew up with her, and she's awesome. I also love following her. Like, I think she's amazing. And so that can be a really easy way to get a lot of followers quickly. When you think about these platforms, and I hate to say it, but you have to play the game. It has to be a little bit of fake it till you make it. You really are no one until you're someone. And I tell that to people all the time. So though you think like you have 500 Instagram followers, $50 for an Instagram ad is too low. I mean, you're already thinking of yourself as Kim K. Like, you got to ground yourself a little bit more and take what you can get, and especially get those case studies, right? Like, if you've never worked with a brand before, take whatever a brand will give you and then use that as a case study. If you've never interviewed anyone before or have never done an Instagram live, reach out to someone who will do it with you and then use that as a case study, and you can go out to more people. I know it's a little like harsh to say that, but I definitely think that it's kind of the way to look at these platforms. Any more questions? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've noticed from Instagram to be successful. Sometimes too, like if you go onto Target or Forever 21 and you go to the pictures that people have tagged them in, then you can also comment on those pictures. So that could be a really easy way to get a lot of followers, is like you go to what Target's posted and then you go ahead and copy and paste comments on, not what Target's posted, sorry, who's tagged Target, and you copy and paste a lot of comments there. People usually do reply or even follow you back. If anyone has any companies they want to start or whatnot too, or too scared to start, like, would love to hear that. I know that's always, it seems like a lot of you guys have decided to pursue these, but I do speak to a lot of people who are just scared of like taking that first step, which can be. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I'll leave it here for a second in case anyone thinks of one. Any tricks to making Instagram graphics? Yes, I love Canva. So Canva is an app on your phone and it's called Canva, and I make all of my graphics on Canva. You can also put it on your laptop and do them that way. And it's Instagram story, Instagram feed, and I have it set up too so my whole team can be on there. So like with my summit team, when they're making graphics for the Instagram, I can go on there and see what they're doing. So it's really great. And then the other thing is, if you're looking to start a company and you're still working a 9-to-5 job, or this is kind of your side hustle, online platforms like Schedugram, which is Schedugram, not good at math, definitely good at spelling, is a great platform that's about $20 a month, and you can schedule all of your posts from there. Other apps that I love editing videos on my phone really easily with this app called InShot. So it's InShot. And then another one is called Video Leap. And then the last one that I use is called Over, which is Over. All great for making graphics and all super cheap. How can you get out of your comfort zone? You're not used to change. Well, Michelle, you are not alone. No one is used to change, and it's incredibly scary. I always tell people, do one thing a day that gets you a little uncomfortable. Now, you do not need to go skydiving to be fearless. Simply start writing. Maybe try and buy a coloring book at a grocery store and color. When you wake up in the morning, try and meditate. You might hate all of these things, like kids hate eating vegetables, but every day you can do something small in the privacy of your own home, perhaps alone, that will really help you start to get out of your comfort zone. And why those little things are so important is because when I see a lot of people so anxious or scared, or especially scared of change, we're all really confused, rightfully so. I mean, the world is so scary on like who we really are, right? So going back to the beginning of this conversation, figuring out who you are as a brand, figuring out what you bring to the table. Well, if you've never colored before, or you've never written in a notebook or meditated, you don't know yourself that well yet because you don't know what you like versus not like. So do little things like that. And I think that's a really great way to kind of start getting out of your comfort zone. For me, like when I was first starting and I would email a million producers at once and I would always get rejected. Like my middle name is rejection. And people are like, how does it not scare you? If you're doing things like that, the internet to me, and always has been, and I think this is why I'm so fearless, it's like fake. So like you guys are real, right? But like I've never met any of you before. I can only see myself on this screen anyway. So I'm not thinking of, and that's like a unique experience. But if you're emailing someone and like you're not super sure if they're going to reply, who cares if they reply or don't reply? You don't know them until like you know them, you know? And that's how you can kind of switch your mind to be a little bit less insecure or questioning what other people say, because all that matters is what the people who you know in real life really think of you. And yeah, fear of the unknown seems to get in your way. It gets in my way. Like when I have an idea, sometimes it's really scary and I get so anxious about it. But the thing about getting out of your comfort zone and ultimately being fearless is that it comes with trying new things. And you'll always get to the other side. Like if you are scared of starting a company or something, it might not be successful. Like the best thing you can do is realize that you might hate meditation. You might hate coloring or writing, but at least you'll know, like at least you tried it. I remember I did that with when I went skydiving and I was like literally petrified, but and people say, will you go again? I will never go again. And I'm so glad to be able to say that I will never go again, but at least I did it. How did I learn all of this stuff? Did I teach myself? Unfortunately, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I am completely self-taught. I never read any marketing books. Like I have obviously showed that I'm not good at math. Initially, when I started, I was failing out of high school. My mom's a nurse and my dad actually was in prison, wrongfully convicted in Rhode Island for most of my childhood. So I truly just grew up alone. I really didn't have any family. And so when I was in high school, I dropped out and went to online school for my last year. I think it was I dropped out in my junior year. So it was my last 2 years because initially no one believed in me enough. The same like Michelle, it's so scary, especially when no one believes in you, that I would be able to make this into a career. So I still planning to go to college. And the only reason I really was able to take this more seriously was because I applied to 3 colleges, got denied or whatever from all of them because I was so bad at everything in school. And that's when I moved to New York and was like, I'm giving myself 30 days to pay the rent. I would not have stopped blogging and stuff, but I probably would have been like, should I get a job? Should I not get a job? If I were to start again, what would I do differently? Melanie, I would do so many things differently, but I also have no regrets. So what I would do differently is I probably would have found a mentor. And, that's why I'm creating this program is to this date, I've never had a mentor. I've interviewed amazing entrepreneurs and really have taken away so much insight from them. But it would have been really nice for me to have someone to go to that was in the same position or had already built a company. I probably would have, with Disney, I would have shopped that idea along more. I don't necessarily think that I would have, because I didn't come from anything, because I never knew when I would get that big yes, and that was my first big yes, I pounced on it. But looking back, I should have shopped that idea around more. I might have made more money, or it might have become a TV show, which is why I initially signed with Radio Disney, is they told me it would become TV and it didn't. And then if I were to start again, what would I do differently? I mean, even to this day, I think my biggest downfall is I have 2, and I would say my number 1 is that I am incredibly impatient. I am learning through this particular mentor program that it's not going to happen overnight or even over a month or even over half a year. This is super slow growth. And it's the same with just yourself as a person. You can't just wake up tomorrow and be like, today I'm going to be fearless. Today is the day, and then you're not going to be the next day. It's a slow process. And then I would try and still try to believe in myself more. It's hard. I think a lot of people, and especially entrepreneurs, are able to put on that front, but behind the scenes, I think everyone, even when they're at the top, really struggles with how can you make this better? Because once you get a taste of success, it's like when you get a taste of money or you get a taste of chocolate, it's natural that you just want more. And if you're a true entrepreneur, then the biggest struggle can be how to live more in the moment and not become so obsessed with like success to where if you have failure or something goes wrong, it ruins you for a few days. I love that, Michelle. I'm learning things on my own along with the people I meet along my path. I think we all are. You're so great. Yeah, I think we all are. And I think that the first step truly to changing any part of your life is to become the person that you want to be. Like you might have the best life or be in the best marriage, but behind the scenes you hate yourself. And so like doing little things that are especially relating more to mental health or like self-help or like talking to a therapist, which I do every week, can be really crucial to changing your life. But it is small steps that get towards that bigger goal. Like you do not have to be Michelle Obama tomorrow. You can simply do something small and do something new every day. Or write like a new email every day, or things like that. I even say like trying a new coffee shop, or say you always go to Walmart, like tomorrow go to Aldi, or tomorrow go to Target. And you also never know, like if you've been going to the same Walmart, it sounds so silly, right? But if you've been going to the same Walmart for the past 15 years and tomorrow you get the courage to be like, I'm going to try Aldi, you might walk in and bump into someone that has the most amazing opportunity for you that you never would have thought would happen. So that's the crazy thing about life, is you just have to be prepared to always be uncomfortable. I agree. And I think that's, like I said, like I literally think that that's so relatable for everyone, that we all kind of have expectations of what our life can be. But if you can be a little bit kinder to yourself and really get deep to the core of like what you want out of your life, like what is your purpose on this planet? Like it seems like maybe you're struggling a little bit with that, which I also did for a very long time. But it takes a lot of soul searching to figure out like, why are you here? You're here for a reason, but what is that reason? Will the Be Fearless Summer provide mentorships in different areas of entrepreneurship? Yes. So I'm very excited about this program. And now I actually felt very lost for like 4 weeks, like last month. Like every other day I would just be like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And then I just had this idea. I did a conference call with a university and left the call and was like, I got it back. Sometimes it's like ebb and flow. Like you're going to have 4 weeks where you're like, why am I on this earth? And then you're going to have 25 weeks where you're like, this is amazing. And then you might have 4 more weeks where you're like, I'm so uninspired. And then it goes back to like, this is great. That's just life. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to struggle with that. But yeah, so the goal is basically, it's like a Tinder or a Bumble for networking and mentorship. After doing like a lot of research over the past weeks, I realized there's a lot of companies out there like this. So I started the summit, but then have mentorship attached to it. But none of them have it in the way that I'm doing it. And I'm not going to say how I'm doing it in case any of you guys steal the idea, because I would probably steal my idea. I'm like, this is a good idea. But it's going to be a lot easier and like sexier to find a mentor. Whereas now I found, and maybe if you guys can kind of relate, and that's why I never had a mentor. It's not only intimidating to me, the idea of having a mentor or like finding a mentor, but it also just seems like complicated. Like you have to fill out these things about yourself, and like the mentor has to like, all these different things. So I'm trying to just make it as easy as possible, which ultimately comes to creating categories for you to find mentors in the easiest way. That's like basically free. And you're welcome. And I'm so glad, Taylor and Michelle. Thank you guys so much. I would love to stay in touch. And Nicole, yeah. And if any of you guys also like are interested in being mentors, if any of you have started successful companies or have sold any companies, definitely would love to stay in touch about that too. But Nicole, it will be available as a platform over the next 6 weeks. And so, send me an email or message after this, and I can send you more information on it too. But fashion is a huge interest for people. So it'll definitely be a category. You guys are welcome. Does anyone want to write in the chat box, like, what are any of your guys' biggest struggles on a daily basis, business or even personal? I like go between like liquids. I don't know why. I'm like obsessed with these like metal straws. They're just like so cold. It's kind of ridiculous. All right, I'll wait like 1 or 2 more minutes and see if anyone has any more questions. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I speak to so many people all of the time who really figure and struggle with like your purpose. And I think that it's so unfortunate that especially nowadays, kids are basically given cell phones when they like come out of the womb. Why are they not all given purposes? Like, why does it take people so long to figure it out? I mean, yeah, and being stuck. I mean, look, if you look really truly at the evolution of my career, it has been so, like, I started as a fashion blogger, then I went into TV segments, then I did like 10 internships in like fashion and tech and all of these different things. Then I like one day worked at an ice cream company and quit. Then I started talking about mental health. Then I had an eating disorder, and now I am where I am, and it's like a full-fledged brand. That takes years. So that being stuck and getting stuck mentality, number one, I think we all need to be way kinder. Like, this is such a bizarre year. So if you're feeling like frustrated or stuck or angry, usually I would be like, give yourself 24 hours and move on. It is not that easy this year. So any of these things you're dealing with, or like, mulling on this idea, you're going to need to give yourself like a little bit of extra time. So be kind to yourself in that way. But that being stuck mentality, how to really overcome that is, what can you do that will really inspire you? And if we're all stuck at home right now, so what can you do throughout the day that's off of your cell phone? That might be trying to learn and pick up a new hobby. That might be learning how to cook something new. Like, giving yourself an ounce of excitement every day can really help you overcome being stuck. And Michelle and Kim, like, I don't know where in the world or country you guys are, but whether you're somewhere where it's cold right now or it's hot right now. But if you're somewhere where it's cold, then you're really stuck inside all day. So try and just read some new books. I mean, maybe get some of those books by these big entrepreneurs. One that I love is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I read that during a time when I was incredibly frustrated. And I genuinely think that why I've been able to come up with this mentor idea is because of that book. So seeing that evolution for other people can be really inspiring. And yeah, there's no like overnight pill to becoming unstuck. But there is a happy pill you can take that's finding something every day that like feeds you. I live in Philly and the weather is bipolar. Yeah, I'm from Connecticut, so I can relate. That being said, I miss the seasons in LA. But yeah, I mean, whenever there's like, also you guys, like, you're all on this platform. Like, why don't you create your own one of these? Like, everyone's at the end of the day is like stuck. Everyone's still trying to figure it out, even when you're at the top. So what if you were able to create like a girls group in your area, like in Philadelphia? Reach out to some people at Drexel. I did a summit there and they were really great. Some local colleges, like, is there a weekly Zoom call 5 people would want to get on? And even Kim, like, that might help you feel inspired, knowing that other people out there are struggling with the same thing as millions of people do. Nicole said, I've had this idea for about the last 5 months, but I was not determined because I wasn't taking any action. But now I'm glad I thought more about it because my vision is clear. Nicole, I love that. And whenever someone comes to me with they want to start a company, I always ask them, how long have you been thinking about it? And it's the same way when people ask me, how was I able to, Shelly, yeah, Shoe Dog is by Phil Knight. I think I said that, yeah, which is why you wrote it, which is very smart. When people ask me, like, why did I keep blogging? I blog because I had nothing else. Like, if you feel like you're pretty much at the pit of like, I am so unsure of what I'm doing, I feel so stuck, find that one thing that like made me not suicidal, which was my blog. And I wrote on it every day because I thought about it every day. And so when an entrepreneur comes to me and is like, I have this idea, I always think, okay, well, how long have you thought about it? So Nicole, if you've thought, and I always say the sweet spot is like 5 or 6 months. That particular mentor idea that I had and just implemented, I don't ever implement things that fast, but it made sense, and like I'm incredibly passionate about it. But there's kind of like this, I don't know how to explain it, but almost like I like to use the word like it's like a tick that you like get. I almost like spaz out when I'm like, God, this is so smart. Cause I'm like, that is like the money idea. But if you don't feel as passionate, like if you're starting this idea, or Nicole, you've had like people, if you've asked 100 people, which is totally fine too, and they all hate your idea or the clothing idea, or you wake up and you're like, God, I really hate this, then maybe it's just like you need to tweak it a little bit. Like make a skirt tomorrow instead of a shirt, like see how it goes. But it seems like you're pretty confident in it, which is awesome. But yeah, it takes a long time for that vision to be clear. And so making vision boards can be really great. Reading some more of the books by entrepreneurs is awesome. What attributes must a good mentor have, and what advice do you have for handling bullies? So funny, because I did a case study with a bunch of fans of mine and gave them all Amazon gift cards, and they all wrote down what they want a mentor to have. And so what I wrote down is people want a mentor who gives good advice and helps them navigate through their goals, a mentor who helps push them to reach their full potential, a mentor who is relatable and honest, a mentor who is open and has good expertise, advice and moral support, can give someone a reality check. It seems like mentors are a little bit like therapists too. So you want someone who has all of those traits, but is almost like myself, who's gone through so many highs and lows, so many moments of self-doubt to get to where I am today. And what advice do I have for handling bullies? I mean, I grew up being bullied. Like I was such a weird kid. What advice do I have for handling them? Like they suck. Like if someone hates your idea, go talk to someone smarter. That's like my favorite quote by myself. And I don't know how I had that quote, but I realized that one day. But yeah, I mean, it's not hard in the same way that being bullied and rejection suck. It all sucks, but people kind of suck. Like if you can realize that the majority of the people on this world and this planet are angry and hate their lives and are living probably lives that they never wanted to live by just a matter of fact, you can always live the life you want to live. You can always get out of an unfortunate situation. I completely changed the path of my life around by what happened to me when I was a kid. And so I'm not the person to sit and say, you need to sit in this terrible situation. You need to sit in this, bad marriage or bad relationship or bad job. And it's the same with like bullying. If someone's putting you down, like, why are they so angry? Why are you so cool that this person like needs to hate you? Like, that's what bullying is. Like, if anyone ever puts someone down or ever is mean to someone, it's because they're jealous of you. It's the same as high school, but almost being an adult is kind of worse than high school because people are way meaner and like know what they are saying when they say it, versus when you're being bullied as a kid, like no one really knows what a slut is. And so now people are meaner. So just think of it like that. And I always like to say, like, channel whatever happens into something. So when I was getting bullied, I channeled all of that into my writing. I channeled all of that into my blog. So if someone is mean to you or hates your idea, for a company that you're wanting to start, okay, so like bring that then into this company, like let it feed you. Because no entrepreneur, anyone who's at a successful company, even a CEO, has gotten to the top by people like being infatuated by them. It's the opposite. So, make your next like collection about those like emotions and show it in a really creative and beautiful way. And I truly think also that's what makes so many companies successful versus all of the startups that fail, is they really have a founder who is truly so authentic and has brought something to the market that people need because they needed it. If you are making like a sustainable fashion line and you hate the ocean, which people like do things like that, or, you only eat vegan food, yet you're creating like a fast food, how are you going to have a conversation with someone about being vegan? You don't really know. So like, know what it is that you're doing. Thank you so much.